So Saturday, the 17th of October, will be the first time Everton go into a Merseyside Derby, top of the league since September 1989. I'm delighted to say my guest for this episode is the man that captained that Everton side, as well as being Everton's most successful captain to date. Kevin, thanks for taking the time to speak to me today. Given the circumstances, I couldn't think of a better man to speak to. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm fine. And like you, really pleased that, after 2 weeks we're still top of the league, although we've not played a game. So must be the longest we've been top of the league for a long time as well, for that amount of time. Take it while you can. Things have started really well, and now we've got this derby game, which is, I don't think we've ever been as confident going into a derby game. I know you can't take sort of recent results into it with you thinking that it's just going to be a win. You've got to work at it. You've got to sort of, be a little bit lucky at times and come away winners. I think at the end of the day, a draw wouldn't be a bad result. But I think what we've done is we've set a standard for ourselves now. Not just the players that have come in, but the players that have upped the game since the players that have come in. And we've been getting these results, so they can't really sort of lay back on any laurels, and take things for granted and think that it's just going to happen, because the way things have gone is we've made it happen. Mm-hmm. It just hasn't happened. So they've got to look at themselves, the players, and think, as long as we make it happen, it'll work, because now we've got that little bit of extra quality, creativity. We're creating chances and scoring goals as well, which is, for me, is a big, big plus. It's something that I still think at the start of the season, we were going to lack. But it's proved me wrong, which is great. Calvert-Lewin seems as if he's a different player. I just didn't see this in him at all this time last year. And I must be honest, even towards the end of last year, after the lockdown, or last season we're on about, after the lockdown, he really dried up with his goals, but he's come back with vengeance. And I'll tell you what, he's getting all types of goals as well. So that's nice to see.
Certainly, it most definitely is pleasing. Now, I know the cliche is for these games is that form goes out the window, but as you said, the form Everton are in, coming off 7 straight wins, and you look at Liverpool coming off a 7-2 loss. I know, we've just had an international break, and Klopp will have had time to mull over it and analyse the defeat. And I was speaking to Andy Gray recently, who said he couldn't think of a worse time to be playing Liverpool coming off the back of that. I was just wondering what you were thinking in that regard.
I think, because they've had the break, it might have been easier for Liverpool players, going away on international duty, not mulling around together and feeling sorry for yourself. Like you say, the managers have plenty of time to reflect on it. I would rather have been playing them a week after a 7-2 result with no international game in the week. And for them, really, that would have been a long week, because for the first couple of days, you would have been sulking about that result at the weekend. So, yeah, they've had time to readjust and regroup, and obviously Klopp preparing himself for this game, which I think would, personally, I would have liked that little bit of an extra break if you've just got battered 7-2. I'm not one of these people that are going to jump on the bandwagon and saying that, it was coming. I didn't see that coming in a long time to Liverpool. For Jamie Carragher to turn around and all say about the high line, how they play the high line, maybe people have fought them off. It's one game. It's one game, and I'm just, you don't want really the dragon to bite your back type of thing. When it's been wounded, that's what you don't want. And I think if we prepare properly, go about it the right way, play with the form that we've got, and the quality. I don't know what we've got available to us for the weekend at this moment in time. It's still a long way away. You've got Thursday and Friday, Saturday. So it's a long way. People who maybe, if the match was tomorrow, wouldn't be playing, could be playing come the weekend. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think a lot of eyes are going to be on it, not because of Everton, but because of Liverpool and how they respond to that 7-2 loss. But, like I said, that high line that they play got fanned out a little bit. But to jump on the bandwagon and say that, I just revert back to Jimmy Carragher saying that he didn't like that. He didn't like doing that. And the reason he didn't like doing that is because he didn't have the pace. We played it because we had the pace. I'm sure if we didn't have pace in the side in the 80s, we wouldn't have played that way. But would we have been successful? Maybe not. It's just a way that teams find that suits them. And I'm sure that Liverpool will not be dropping deep. They'll be still squeezing. There'll be plenty of space between them and the keeper. But that's where your keeper becomes important as a sweeper. But I'm not overly concerned about that. I think it's all about us. And if we perform, then we'll get a result of some sort. The way that we've been playing, we've got to go in confidence. We look different. We look a different breed this year to what we did last year. There were signs of it last year. And you'd seen that we needed tweaking. We needed players bringing in. The midfield that he was picking week in, week out, towards the end of the season. I think he was picking the side to highlight the problems that we had. And that problem, obviously, as you see, was in the midfield area.
Yeah, and I was hoping we could sort of dissect that a little bit later on, but just to sort of stick on the, as you were talking to, it is still a long way away. The actual sort of event of the derby itself now, 17th of October, again, it is exactly 10 years to the day that we won our last Merseyside derby. I remember it well. I was there. Cahill, Arteta, 2-0. Goodison was an absolute bear pit that afternoon, and I feel like at Goodison in particular, there's a fine line, especially when it's packed, to being a bear pit, to turning into a toxic atmosphere. And
there's only so many grounds in the country now that can do that. I think ours is definitely one. I would most probably put Liverpool there as another. And then you start scratching around. Where's the next ground that is the original ground but still got the same atmosphere? You wouldn't say United is at this moment in time. Tottenham, I've not been to the new Tottenham ground, so I think the old Tottenham ground, yes, it was on a sort of an evening. You can imagine that rocking. I've played there in an evening. That game that really won us the league that year when they've made that great save from Falco. The atmosphere that night, but we were strong enough to deal with that. But there's not many grounds in the country that you can actually say that you get an advantage from it as a home side, and I'm sure that Goodison Park is definitely one of them. And then you start scratching the ground after Liverpool, because obviously they're still at Anfield. They've built on and everything, but I don't think there's many grounds that you can actually turn around and say that that is a bear pit. But when you go into, you're fighting. Like I've said before many a times, it's like a gladiator going into the Colosseum. So as if you've got to come out, there's only one winner.
I know. But I was going to say on that point of whether we've got an advantage or not, with no fans this time round. Obviously, you talked about the restart there, Project Restart from last season, and I think the first game back at Goodison was the Merseyside Derby, and we were very unlucky not to win that at the end. We had two good chances. I remember Tom Davies hitting the post as well towards the end, and people have said that this has come to the benefit of our players. They seem to be playing with a lot more freedom, seem to be a lot more relaxed. I was going to say, do you think this time round, obviously we're playing a hell of a lot better, do you think it'll continue to come to our advantage, or would we benefit more from it being...
It's how people react. We've got players now that played in big games, so, this game to them shouldn't faze them too much. I think the one thing is that, with no crowd there, what type of derby is it going to be like? Look, all derbies are important when you play them. It doesn't matter where you play them, who plays in a derby. They're all important, but the significance of a crowd not being in there, I think is like, how can it be the same? How can it be the same? People who are shouting are actually shouting in their armchair. They're not at the match, and I just wonder, will it have the same feeling, or will it just be another game? And to a lot of these foreigners, derby games are just another game to them. You always find that you need reminding of the Colemans of the world, the Jamie Carragher's of the world when he was playing, about what a derby means, what it means to the city. And then when you get out there in that atmosphere, you realise what it does mean. When you see pockets of Everton fans at Anfield and pockets of Liverpool fans at Goodison, but they're not going to get that experience. And it's an experience that you'll always remember as an Evertonian or a Liverpoolian, that if you're going into a derby match, that why it's so important and one of the biggest derbies in the world.
Very good point. Now, one of the aspects that Everton are mostly criticised for, I feel, is that element of pressure. When that's on, both fans and media alike sort of put them under scrutiny for having a fragile mentality going into these big games.
Is that because the players haven't been good enough, though?
Arguably, I think that's a good point. But I was going to say,
we've got big players now. We've got big players who've got big, strong mentalities. Otherwise, I don't think Carlo Ancelotti would have been bringing them in.
That's fair. And I was going to say that the
performance, he's sort of projecting onto the players as well. This is what you need to win a game, your mindset, and not just for half an hour, for 96 minutes, whatever it takes. You need that mindset to get through a game. And I think he's building that into the players. And you've seen players that have been bang average have actually raised the game. And they've had to. They've had to, because it hasn't been good enough. And the fact is that now the bar's been raised, they know that they've got to raise their game. Otherwise, they're not going to be at the club. It's been quite evident that we're top heavy with players, and that I think we've done a remarkable job in the transfer window, where we've been buying players where I think for the right money, and they've made a massive difference. Where we've spent double the money on one player and don't make a difference to the side. You still think it was, there's not an improvement. But at the moment, I think there's been an improvement. And that's what you've got to try and do when you're bringing players into the football club. Whichever football club it is, if it's lower league or higher league, Premiership, the players you bring in have got to be better than what you've got. Especially in our case, because of the league positions tell you that we weren't good enough and we needed improving. But I think over the years, I don't think we've been improving the side.
No, I think that's fair. And I was going to say that was most evident to me, I feel, in that win against Tottenham, opening game of the season, away from home, where we've not fared very well, particularly in London. Yeah. We haven't got a record of doing too well there, but we lived up to the billing, and the performance was excellent. And hopefully you've got
to realise why good sides always pick up goals towards the end of the game. Why do they always sneak it? They're lucky. They've sneaked the last minute winner again, or a goal to get a draw. Sometimes there's no luck in that. It's because you've got that belief that you're going to get back into the game. I think when you're grasping and you're clutching at things and you're hoping that you're going to get a goal, then it's a little bit different than knowing. And I think that's the difference, the mentality of the players of going into games knowing that you can get back into the game. And likewise, when it goes the other way, a couple of goals up. Remember the Newcastle game a couple of years ago, and then you lose a goal, and then all of a sudden it's only a matter of time before you can see it again and again. It's that mentality that's really sort of, that's the bad mentality that's drifting into your mind, your mindset. But then you've got the good mentalities when you're on the other end of it, where you're actually getting that goal, to get that result of a draw or a win towards the end of the game. Like I say, there's no look about it. It's just that the lads are a little bit, what can I say, cleverer, and belief in the mindset.
Yeah, prime example of that being Man United under Ferguson.
Yeah, I think we've seen it, this year, or last year in certain games. Man City in the past, look how they won the league title. That year against, I think it was QPR, wasn't it? Last game of the season, Man United were up at Sunderland. That belief, the belief in the manager that you're going to get it, the way that, you can make substitutions that are actually going to win you the game. I think that's what Fergie did really, really well, is that he picked the bench to win the game. And there's, I would say up until maybe a year ago, where I think Manchester City could have done that, but they've struggled with injuries. And obviously when you get injuries and then you start losing games, you're lacking confidence. And like I say, sometimes when the pass is just not a yard in front of you, but only half a yard, it's that safer ball that you're playing rather than the ambitious ball that you're looking to play safe. You don't want to make that mistake. And I think that's certainly been our case in the past, is that we've played safe balls, the balls into people's feet rather than in front of them. And like I say, that comes with winning, and that puts you on the front foot. You think about it, if the ball's played in front of you, you're on the front foot. It gets played behind you, you're on the back foot. So just little simple things like that. But like I say, a lot of that comes with confidence. And like I say, I think we're going into it very confident at the moment. I'm sure we're not fearing it as much as we did maybe in the last couple of years, going into games and hoping. I'm not going into this game myself hoping that we're going to get a result. I'm more confident is that we're going to get a result.
Yeah, that as you say, it's simple, but it's very true, isn't it? The sort of the intention behind the ball that you play. Now, I just wanted to put two hypothetical situations for you in regards to however this game goes, the potential effect on the mentality going forward. Now, firstly, if Everton do win this game, continue this great run of form, do you think it will be a cause for those that do doubt Everton, for example, in the media, to reassess how they treat Everton?
Well, we're 3 games into the season. I've seen teams get relegated, being top of the league after 3 games, 4 games, maybe even 5 games.
Don't say that.
Well, I don't think we're anywhere near that, believe me. But I don't get too carried away. This will go a big step forward, but then it's only 4 games. If we have 4 games to go, it'll be a lot different, believe me. But we haven't. We've got 34 games to go after this weekend, so it's one of them that I think it'll go a long, long way if we win. And then all of a sudden we've got gaps on teams. But not everybody's going to be winning and picking up results, because obviously we're playing Liverpool. So if we win, they lose points. We gain on them. Other teams can gain if they win as well. And I think then it sort of opens it up to everybody, that obviously your mindset changes a little bit in the way that you're going forward, and you're the ones that's being hunted. and you're the ones who are trying to get away from everybody. But it'll be an interesting game. I must admit, I'm looking forward to this derby more than a lot of derbies from before. So I don't know. There's something about this one that's making me, I'm not nervous. I'm nervous watching derby games, an Evertonian, and I think that's mainly because we haven't done so well in them in the last 10 years. So I think that's why I've been. But I'm not. I don't feel nervous at the moment. But no doubt when just before the kick-off, I'll get nervous. I get more nervous watching a game than I did when I played.
Yeah, I think that's completely understandable, given that some of the lineups that we've sent out for these games over the years. You touched on it there. Obviously, the record hasn't been great. And hypothetical situation number 2, worst case scenario, it doesn't go well. We get beat. Do you think that we've got it in us to brush it off and still aim for European football and silverware for this season?
I mean, I looked at it at the beginning of the year, and realistically, what would you say? Hopefully, top 6. I'm a bit more optimistic now after seeing, but like I say, it's only 3 games that we've played. But there's still optimism there, if you know what I mean, because what you've seen is a lot brighter.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the tempo that we're playing at, even from last year under Carlo to this year, the quicker we're moving the ball about, and we're not slowing it down. We're slowing it down when we're winning, and we're controlling games, and we're comfortable in it. But until we get that little bit of a cushion, we're zipping it about, and with an intent that I've not seen us do consistently. I've seen flashes of it, of what maybe not just this manager, but past managers have wanted, and you're expecting more, and then the next performance is so much different from the last, as in the tempo. But I've seen under Carlo that the tempo in the games has been, a high tempo that we're playing. We're playing a pressing tempo. Is that because we've got the players? We've got the players that can do it. And maybe when he picked the side last year, that highlighted that the players couldn't do it. Only Carlo can answer that with honesty. But I think that, look, I think if we lose Saturday or the weekend, if we lose at the weekend, I think it's going to hurt the supporters more than it will. It'll hurt the manager. There's no doubt about it. But I think he'll get over it quicker. And that's what I like about this manager, is that his reaction to certain things that have happened. The question about, about the players, how quickly they've adapt. Well, good players always adapt. Mm-hmm. So it's more or less saying the other players didn't adapt. So does that mean they weren't good players? It's putting you, without saying it, it's putting a thought in your head. And then he turns around, and it's an old saying by older managers and managers gone by, who would say, game's simple, the ball's round, goals are the same size, the pitch has never changed. We still play on grass. And I think what he's hinting at there is it's certain modern day coaches that make the game hard by trying to, explain something that's blatantly obvious, but in a different manner, with different vocabulary, different meanings. And I think sometimes it's a little bit, they baffle me sometimes, because, it's just simple like it is. It's a simple, you have the ball, keep the ball, you score goals. That is the biggest thing about football, is but the ball, want it, get it. If you haven't got it, go and get it. And it's as simple as that. Working in pairs all around the pitch. Then pairs go over there, you work with them, and but they just use all the jargons now and tablets, to show you. But these players now are all brought up with that. They're all brought up with it from a young age, from 8 years of age. They're getting things on the sideline, and they've got a tablet to go to have a look where they should be, things like that. So when they're brought up with it and they don't get it, you're a dinosaur. But I think that the good players don't need that. The good players don't need telling twice. Mm-hmm. You tell good players once. If you have to sell them twice, then maybe you have to look for something else.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's certainly something that I think Carlo has sort of nailed into this group of players that we've got now, is that the simple football, you can't go wrong when it's done right. Really, I think.
Look, everything with the ball these days should be natural to these players, because they're brought up to play football. Get it down, pass. I think the one thing that they're not brought up with is that when you lose the ball, what happens next? Where do I run to? What position do I get in? And I think that's what maybe Carlo's worked on.
Yeah.
And all the top teams, they all work hard. You look at the Man United teams of the past, they won the league numerous times, how hard they worked as a group. Manchester City, when they won it, how hard they work at getting the ball back. Arsenal, when they had that great side, how hard they worked to get the ball back. Liverpool, the last year and the year before, how hard they worked to get the ball back. So we've seen the Barcelona sides and the Real Madrids do that as well. Every top side that win the league have got to do something different than the opposition, and that's working harder to get back that eagerness to get and willingness to get that ball back. Mm-hmm. And it's no different every year. The most willingness side and the hard working side, will then win the back, retain possession, and reprocess it, as they call, and then get more chances.
Yeah, I think that Alan and Decore have been a godsend in that regard. In their
you know what? I didn't have a problem with them two lads coming in, knowing what type of players they were. So Rodriguez, within the amount of game time he's had, maybe over quite a few years now, and we all knew what he was capable of. But I was just wondering, is this the right place to come and rejuvenate your career? But God, the quality that he brings, you just see that why the likes of Bayern Munich and Real Madrid have had him. It's just it's up there, isn't it? He's really, really quality. I think he suffered at Real Madrid because why would you want another player like Ronaldo or Gareth Bale in your side, and numerous other players that they had as well. Isco, I think they had. Yeah. Why would you want to bring Rodriguez to the club? So all of a sudden you get in a predicament. Does he fit in or not? I'm not quite sure. And I think that he suffered from that. Them amount of players there. I just thought it was maybe bad management from whoever brings in that regrouping side, to recruiting side. Sorry, but I'm glad we've got at the moment. I mean, I don't know what it'll be like come February. You're freezing your nuts off. But the wind's blowing, especially in Goodison. It's got a typical wind in there. There's a swirly wind inside Goodison Park. So, but look, he started well, just like the other lads, and I made up for him. We're seeing what we've been lacking, that little bit of extra quality.
Yeah, from Columbia to County Road, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
feels like back home.
When me and you last spoke, one of the last things that we addressed was the issue of leadership within the squad, and you made the point about the fact that Marco Silva, when he was manager, recycled the captain's armband between, I think it was 4 or 5 different players. As you talk about there, Carlo seemed to have taken a different approach with near enough everything since he's come into the club. And he's put a lot of stock in Seamus putting him on a pedestal and comparing him to captains that have worked under Ancelotti in the past, like Maldini, Ramos, and Terry. I don't know if you seen something that came up from The Athletic recently that said that at the start of the season, Seamus sat all the lads down and made them watch a video that was from, the movie Howard's Way.
Yeah.
And cut it together with goals from the 80s and goals that the current squad have scored over the years. I also think, on a side note, I think Coleman's form has been a massive plus over this last few games. But when you combine that with players who lead by example, we just talked about them there, the likes of James, Alan, Decore, DCL too at the moment. Do you think we've finally got the right balance now to push on and develop a winning side?
I still worry about us in depth, because I think the depth was the team from last year, and I think that proved that it wasn't really quite there. So I do worry about that if we do pick up injuries. But then I'm hoping that these players that have come in have actually upped the game of the players that are still there, that they've replaced. So, better players make you a better player. So hopefully that rubs up off on them, and they're not just going to sit back and sulk. They can see that something's good's happening, and they want to be part of it. So when they come in, they do a job. And like I say, it's important that we have a good squad of players that, at the moment, can you see us actually picking a bench to win us a game?
I think it's improved. I think we've seen in.
I think it has improved. Yeah. Well, it's got to if you've got these players playing. But I still think that we need, maybe you look at your Man Uniteds in the past that have, and your Man Cities that they've had a bench that people can come off it and just like for 10 minutes just change the game. We've seen that at Chelsea in the past as well. So that's my only, I would say, worry is that we've the strength in depth. But look, where we've come from last year at the moment is a million times better. So I think that's the next part of the hurdle, is that maybe we're looking at that because, to strengthen the side now, we're saying like, well, we need another striker. Well, where are you going to get a better striker than Calvert-Lewin at the moment? And I never thought I'd say that. But you're looking to get better than Calvert-Lewin in the side, I think he's improved. I think his touch has improved. I think his awareness has improved. I think his timing. I think still he can work on getting into the box in the right positions at times. Pulling off backstick and making runs of balls, which he does a lot, but he can do it more. So the one thing is you just always got to look to improve, and I think he is improving. He's what is he, 23 now? I don't think Sharp would become a regular till he was about 80. He's 24. Striker's position is a hard position. That type of striker, because the striker that he is, he has to be strong. And a lot of young strikers are not physically strong until they get to about 23, 24. And if you look at Sharpie, he was exactly the same.
And I was going to say, do you see similarities there between Calvert-Lewin?
I think he's a little bit more mobile than Sharpie, as in pace-wise. I don't think he's got the same type of touch as Sharpie, because Sharpie was a tremendous touch player. But his work rate's unbelievable. And that's what I like, and that's what I want to keep seeing from him, his work rate. Because if he keeps that going, that when he does have a bad game, you can always say, well, you can rely on Dom to actually give us 100% in a game if he's not playing well. So, that's the one thing that we've always been impressed with anyway. I think that just it's a natural thing. Hopefully, it still becomes a natural thing for him.
Yeah, I think the coaching of Ancelotti and his staff has gone a long way there in developing that aspect of his game. I was gonna ask as well. I think it'd be interesting to hear that up until recently, I think the start of the season, there were still major reservations about the back line, centre halves in particular, Michael Keane, Yerry Mina. Obviously, Jordan Pickford made his blunders here and there. Stats are stats, and you'll probably sort of brush this under the carpet. But I heard a stat recently saying that Yerry Mina and Michael Keane are up there, I think, in the top 5 in terms of their pass completion rate and their sort of accuracy on the ball. So I was wondering what your sort of opinion was of that back line, and if it's changed at all.
Confident. I think the big thing is that Carlo's had a pre-season to work with him. Maybe even 2 pre-seasons if you count the lockdown, and then this pre-season towards this season as well. So that's you can see that he's been working on things. I'd say clean sheets keep it makes you hungry then to keep clean sheets. And the goals we've given away, I think we can do something about. And they'll be disappointed with them. I know Jordan's getting a lot of stick for mistakes, but I don't think I've seen one keeper in the Premiership who hasn't made a mistake this year, and we're only 3 games into the season.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's the way the game is. It could be a situation with Jordan that he's actually looking for the pass before he actually gets the ball under control, which is what players do. But it's all dead new to keepers, this, isn't it? And there's getting more emphasis on the keepers having to play and the distribution of the keepers. And potentially he's got a big future in front of him. He's got more than 10 years of Premiership football in him. We are trying to maybe be overcritical of him, but hopefully he's learning from these mistakes. I think if he keeps making them, then we have got a problem. But they seem a different mistake. Time and time, it's not the same mistake. So, that's a concentration thing, and that'll come.
I like to think so.
I don't think it's a position that I'd be over worried about if I was a supporter or a manager. I think it's the right thing that we brought somebody in that's competing with him rather than just being there. And I think that'll benefit him as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that point, because I'm very much a fan of Jordan Pickford. I don't like it when people slander him, and I do feel like, as you say, he's got 10 plus years in him to be a top keeper, and I like to think that'll come out now.
Yeah, I don't think many people were Nev's favourite after the 5-0 hammering in Liverpool by Liverpool, and then he went off and had an operation and come back and went on loan. And I think people were glad to see the back of Nev then. But look what that turned Nev into.
Yeah.
So.
Weren't they wrong? Hey. Now, looking at rounding this up now and finishing it off, I was going to say, right, you go into that dressing room before kick-off on Saturday. What do you say to the lads to get them riled up, to get the job done?
Well, look, you don't really need to say too much as a manager. I think you just need them to be switched on, control your aggression in the game. Because sometimes derby games hinge on a lot of times, the team that settles down and controls the temper. But is it going to be as ferocious without a crowd there? I'm not sure, because that intensifies a lot of things. But it'll be compose your side as much as you can, and people they'll try and say, well, try and enjoy it. You can't enjoy a derby. There's no chance of enjoying a derby. But I think with this pressure on, maybe it'll be a little bit different for both sets of sides, not just Everton. But no, it's one that you come on, isn't it about time? isn't it, about time? And it's just reminding people about the jobs. People don't really need to be wound up for this game. They're already wound up. And I'm sure Seamus has had another video played of all the Derby games we played and all the bad luck that we've had. Because I tell you what, we've had some bad luck in derbies, not just over the last 10 years, but I would say over a lifetime. That, we've had penalties not given. We've had decisions go against us. Okay, we've made tackles that we've got away with it, but I think they've made tackles that they've got away with, definitely without a red or whatever. But I might be a bit biased, but I do think we've had the unfair rub of the green against Liverpool, and it's got to turn.
It's about time, eh? 10 years,
yeah.
Enough of the embarrassment.
Yeah, you need luck. You need luck. There's no doubt about it. In any game, really, you'll always need a little bit of luck, but you make your own luck. So I think we'll do okay. I must admit, like I say, I'm more optimistic than I've ever been going into a derby game. And like I said before, other derby games I've been hopeful. I'm not as hopeful. I'm more, more confident.
Confident.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Kev, I just want to say it's been wonderful to talk to you again. Thanks very much for coming on
mate.
And speaking with us. Just for the listeners and the audience, make sure to check out Grand Old Team across their socials and all the stuff that they do, because I know they work hard. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Up the toffees.
Cheers. Cheers. Up the toffees.